Uh, I know that I have to tell myself, okay, God is in control and He knows what He's doing. But tell me about what you feel about the state of this world, this nation, and where we are, your perspective as to what we should do or what we need to do or what the situation really is.
We're at a crossroads. Either God is shaking us to get our attention, um, to get right with Him, or He's tired of us.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm more concerned than I've ever been in my life about the future of our country.
I've enjoyed this time together with you, brother. Now, let me ask you a couple of questions. One is the other day I had a chance and a privilege to meet your son, and what an awesome guy. I just saw a heart, and I know he's had some disabilities and challenges, and I've got a grandson that's on the autism spectrum. What's that like as a father and a parent, and the joy of that and the blessing of that, because I know there are a lot of people that, especially we got a lot of young couples, and if they go to a doctor and get a report that your child may not be able to do all the things every other child can do.
Right.
They come to us devastated, and we have to point out, other people can tell you that don't focus so much on that. There are other people that have lived through and seen, and they can give you some positive encouragement through that. What's it like?
Well, it's a bit of a roller coaster ride. At first, it's difficult because every father wants their son to grow up and be 6 foot tall and handsome and the star of his favorite sport, and his daughter to be the picture perfect daughter who wins a local beauty contest and
Right.
is charming and graceful. And my youngest son is not any of those things.
Oh, he's
He
good
is
looking.
autistic.
Yeah.
And we just love him to death.
Yeah.
We had to deal with the shock as I was in Iraq when he first started exhibiting the behavior tendencies that are associated with autism. He was doing some really strange things. They were cute at the time,
Yeah.
but they were strange. And my wife said she's really worried, and she got on the internet and did this basic research and said, everything that he's doing that's kind of odd is consistent with autism. And I just had a big lump in my throat at that point. I was in Iraq. I had enough stress being in Iraq, and now I was getting this dumped on me.
Right.
So you go through the I talked about questioning God, and you go through that phase. I did that. Why me? Why me, God? Or really, why my son? Why my son? Because he's so sweet and kind. Yeah. But then once you mature into that, it becomes a blessing, and it's a blessing. I would say to anybody out there who hears this, if you have an autistic child, number one, you're not alone. Number two, Romans 8:28. All things work for good for those who know the Lord, who are called according to their purposes. There are other people in the same boat that you can help and that can help you.
Yeah.
And it has made me a better person, Bill. Used to when I saw someone who had a disability, in a wheelchair or disabled in such a way that their appearance was very, very awkward.
Yeah.
I would look the other way. I'd be uncomfortable. And that's where most people are.
Yeah.
And now that I have my son, when I see people who are acting a little different, I ask myself, what's their story?
Yes, that's right.
I'd like to know what their story is.
Yeah.
And it's very moving in your heart. Yeah. And it makes you a better Christian, no doubt about it. And my favorite companion, I have 3 wonderful children. My favorite companion is my wife, to do anything, go to dinner, go to a movie. My second favorite companion, and I've said this to the other 2 children, is the autistic child.
Yeah.
Because he's just a hoot. I mean, once you learn his quirks,
yes, that's it.
He is so much fun to be around.
Yeah.
He is so sweet and innocent.
Yeah.
He knows he's different. And he has a sense of humor about it. And he'll make little comments that he knows are going to make you laugh.
Right.
And we did everything we could to put him in. And this is advice I would give to other families. We decided early on, number one, this is not his fault.
Yeah.
Number two, we're going to do as much normal stuff with him as any other child. He's going to
Yeah.
learn to be on the baseball team.
Yeah.
He's going to learn to wait in line to go bat. He's going
Yeah.
to learn to wait in line to catch the ground ball. He's going to
Wow.
learn to wait in line to catch the pop fly.
Yeah.
He's going to learn to wait in line to run the wind sprints on the little
Wow.
kids football team. He's
Good.
going to learn how to shoot a layup, and so we put him in sports teams. And Bill, every sport he played, he was the worst player on the team.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in every sport he played, the coaches loved him.
Yes.
Just loved him.
How
And I
about
coached
that?
school. I had my older son was an excellent athlete. So I had the experience of having the older son who was the excellent athlete, and I coached
Yeah.
him. He was always the first or second best player on every team he played on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had that experience, and I'm glad I
Yeah.
did,
That's
because
right.
it made me better able to deal with the son
Yes.
who was the worst player on
Yeah.
the team.
That's right. Yeah.
And I didn't look at it as a reflection on me, and
Yeah.
I wasn't angry at him because
Right.
he couldn't catch the ground ball.
Yeah.
I encouraged him. The other one
Yeah.
could catch the ground ball with his eyes closed
Right.
and throw a strike to first base, but
I
this
got
one
it.
couldn't do any of
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
So, but he learned to interact with other children.
Uh-huh.
He learned on his own that he was a little different,
Mm-hmm.
and he learned how to deal with interacting with people, even though he was different.
Right.
And he had to deal with people making fun of him,
Mm-hmm.
but he learned it early to do that and
Right.
let it be water on a duck's back.
Wow.
And so I would encourage, if the child is physically able to do so,
Yeah.
to get your child into normal activities, sit down with
Yeah.
a coach and say, my son is autistic. He's going to be the
Mhm.
worst player on your team.
Right.
I think if you're a decent person, you're going to end up being fond of them. And we did
Yes.
that with every coach.
Yep.
And the word got out that our son was autistic
Yeah.
and was just this great kid. And
Yes.
so every team he played on,
Wow.
he was maybe not the coach's favorite, but he was
Yeah.
a coach's favorite. In one game we had him play flag football a couple of years. He was terrible,
Right.
but he just had a load of funny instances. And in one game we were getting beat by a big margin, and the coach walked across the field and said, "How about letting my autistic player score a touchdown?"
Mm-hmm.
And they did. So he got to score a touchdown.
Wow.
And
How
they
about that?
told the kids, they all knew who it was.
Yeah.
We're going to let Jamie.
Yeah.
They're going to give the ball to Jamie. Just let him go. They're going
Yeah.
to give the ball to number 11. He's autistic. Just let
That's
him
right.
score.
Yes.
And he did that. And I mean, both sides were just, now you don't do that in high school necessarily, but it was just peewee football, and the kids loved it. And my wife cried, and I get a little
Yeah.
choked up myself.
Well,
So, but
yeah.
those kind of moments keep you going.
That's right.
And
That's right.
he is an inspiring individual to us, and
Yes.
I am never embarrassed to
No.
introduce him to someone, such as when I introduced him to you.
Oh, I was
I
honored.
feel like I have to. I feel like I've got to let you know his unique perspective,
Yeah.
and then once you know that, you start appreciating him
Oh,
immediately.
you encouraged me, Max. See, because we're just on that journey. When our little grandson had all these little quirks that we didn't know, and then we took him and had him tested. And Brent, my son, and his wife Carrie have been fantastic with him. And this year, of all things, Brent did the same thing. He put him in Little League Baseball because he just, once they get it in their mind, I want to play baseball, I want to play baseball, I want to play.
Yeah.
He wouldn't let up. And so
Yeah.
Brent told the coach the same thing. And he did the same thing. The ball would fly by him sometimes, and he wasn't there. But Brent was out there just as proud and applauded for him. And after a while, all the families were the same way.
Yeah.
The last game of the season, they did similar. The last game of the season, he scored, and they all, both teams celebrated, and they
Yeah.
let him come in and touch home plate. And the parents came over, and they were all just saying, this has been the most meaningful year and season we ever had, because it taught their kids compassion, and it taught
Yep.
them how to get along. And Brent said, it started off with I had all these fears that everybody wants to go win, and they're going to treat my child bad. And it ended up that everybody loved Elijah. And so your story with Jamie was a big encouragement to me, and I hope our story will help other people to know the same thing, that there's it'll probably bring out the goodness in other people when they can see situations like that.
Absolutely. I was at church the other day, and there's a young lady. My son is now 20. He looks about 14, but he's 20. And
Right.
there's a young lady in our church his same age who has gone off to a major Southeastern Conference university to play scholarship softball.
Yeah.
Tremendous athlete.
Yeah.
And I bumped into her and was chit-chatting with her, and it was a service about our mission, about our foundation.
Yeah.
And I had taught her in Sunday school. And I said, I don't know if you remember me. And I called her name out. She said, oh, yeah, you're Jamie's dad.
Yeah.
It wasn't your Max Wood.
Yeah.
You're Jamie's dad. And she said, how is Jamie? And I pointed out, I said, well, he's autistic. He goes, oh, yeah. And I told him about what the progress he had made. And she was very complimentary of him. And
wow.
And then I was speaking to a Sunday school class about the foundation work on time. And a lady in the Sunday school class piped up and said, how is Jamie? And I was a bit taken back. I said, well, he's fine, and he's now 20, and he's still in the special school, and we're looking for a post. And the lady said, I always loved him. Yeah. And she had a daughter his age, and I didn't know that these parents viewed him fondly, but it turns out they did.
That's right.
So I would encourage your son, and I would encourage your daughter-in-law, and I would encourage anybody that's listening to us, if you realize you're at that stage where you're just starting to realize you have a special needs child.
Right.
It is the beginning of a wonderful journey.
Yeah.
It is a challenging journey.
Yeah.
It is not without its frustrations.
Yeah. That's right.
And it is not without moments of embarrassment when your child does something that is not socially normally done.
But
if you are focused on the proper amount of love and discipline combination, you can end up inspiring people. And I have learned that some people have been inspired by our relationship with him. And it gives us a chance to show that we love him. And I introduced him to the governor of Georgia with no apologies.
Yeah.
And, the governor took to him. I introduced him to one of our United States senators with no apologies. And they kind of took, you could tell they kind of were charmed by him. I introduced him to a second governor of Georgia, again, with no apologies. And, make sure they kind of knew what the situation was. And once folks understand that, and I never said that apologetically. I just said, this is my son, Jamie. He attends such and such school, a school for special needs students. And then they pick up on it. And it ends up being a blessing moment for even a hard-nosed politician.
That's all right. But I know this. There are people that are just starting that journey, and they come to us with all these fears. In fact, my son Brent, for about a year or two, never acknowledged it, publicly. He just privately kept it to himself. And one day in a conversation, I said, Brent, you don't know how many people you will encourage if you will just put it out there.
Yeah.
And so when he did, his email blew up with people saying, I didn't know that anyone else had been on that journey, and we don't talk about it. And it just kind of rallied a whole lot of other people to be inspired to do something right. So I'm so glad.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned also a moment ago about having introduced him to politicians. We just got through the election thing here yesterday, and all the stuff going on. I know that I have to tell myself, okay, God is in control and He knows what He's doing. But tell me about what you feel about the state of this world, this nation, and where we are in your perspective as to what we should do or what we need to do or what the situation really is. And
we're very much at a crossroads from what I can tell. I have I'm praying that we are approaching a third great awakening. We certainly need one. And if you look at the first great awakening and the second great awakening in our country, which was also worldwide in a lot of ways, they prepared us for tremendous geopolitical challenges. The first great awakening prepared us for the Civil War, if I've got my history correct.
Right.
And the second great awakening prepared us for the Second World War, if I've got my history correct.
Wow.
Not like it exactly the next day, but it was
right.
Put in place value systems that helped us endure horrible situation. We're at a crossroads. Either God is shaking us to get our attention to get right with Him, or He's tired of us.
Right. Yeah.
I'm more concerned than I've ever been in my life about the future of our country. I did not say that 4 years ago. But the recent election and some things that are happening concern me. Now, as we said earlier, we're going to win in the end.
Right.
But the question is, who's the we going to be? Is the we going to be Christians?
Right.
Is the we going to be America? We have, you and I and folks that grew up in the same way you and I did, have always associated America with Christianity. And a lot of powers are trying to separate that connection. And I am concerned about the lack of a biblical perspective guiding the actions of our political leaders. And I saw that, yesterday, 2:00 in the morning today, when what had been what was going to be a spirited objection to the Electoral College because of the voting irregularities, significant voting irregularities, in my opinion, became a whimper. Just became a pro forma objection because they had been stymied by the violence that occurred. And we still don't know who caused the violence exactly. There's a lot of people that think it was the political left that wore the hats and wore the T-shirts, but aren't really supporters of the president. And so we haven't sorted through those facts. So I'm very concerned about the future. I see some things that give me hope is Christian engagement in the media, like what you're doing, like what CTN is doing, and that what I'm getting a first taste of. Because the other side has the media in their hands right now. And we can push back through the media. You want to make if you're a Christian and you have traditional values and you want to make a difference in America, get involved in the media. Start a newspaper. Buy a radio station. Underwrite a broadcast like your ministry or the one I'm involved in. Use media for our world instead of letting them dominate us. So I'm concerned. I mean, as a Christian, I know through our previous discussion about Revelation, we're going to have struggle and we're going to win in the end. But the country that we know as the United States of America is not mentioned in the Bible, to my knowledge. Now, I know there are people out there. I don't know much about them. I don't know exactly what they're that feel like they can identify America in the Bible and prophecies and that kind of thing. But Jesus never guaranteed that the United States of America would be around. And the Roman Empire before it fell was nominally a Christian empire. It was not until Emperor Constantine came along. But it became, at least nominally, at least it allowed Christianity to flourish.
And collapsed from the inside. It collapsed from the inside.
And then the empire collapsed from the inside. So we are collapsing from the inside, I fear. Why should an adversary invest in military hardware when they can fix an election a lot cheaper and just let us fight it out among ourselves, which we
Yeah.
saw, yesterday.
I know, and that's where I think where I've looked at, because and again for our viewers to realize that you've been working in Washington lately, just looking at information and having to try to see where things are, so you've got a real good perspective on what's going on. But it looks to me, it's kind of obvious that it's not about politics anymore. It's not about race. It's really a worldview, and it's who's going to choose the worldview for this country and what direction we go in. And
yes, I mean the biblical worldview is the key.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at things from a biblical worldview, you're going to have commonality on a lot of things, and we don't have that now. And even the traditionally more conservative party is starting to turn its back on Christianity, as I see.
Yeah.
And those of us, and I would put you and I in that camp that speak openly about our faith. And when I was involved in political, I ran for public office unsuccessfully. I spoke about my faith everywhere. I had supporters come up to me and say, you really shouldn't go so hard on that Christianity thing. There's a lot of Jews in DeKalb County, and they're Republicans, and I'm like, this is who I am. So and I don't mean that it criticizing the Jewish members of the, but you know what I'm saying. They were just saying, they were trying to help me.
Yeah, you could get elected easier if you would keep some of those things silent.
Exactly. And I said, look, if they really like me, they're going to support me even though they have a different religion than I do.
That's right.
Because I'm being straight with them about who I am.
That's right.
And I fear that, Michael Youssef, I saw him on TV, and he made a comment in a sermon. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, for 20 years I've been warning you that persecution was coming to America. I'm telling you now, it's here now. And I think he's right. And you're seeing people persecuted for their faith. Right now it's politically. It's going to start, I fear, becoming professionally. I don't want to hire that guy. He's a religious wacko. I don't want to hire that guy. He's a right-wing Christian activist or whatever. I don't want to hire him or her. She's a holy roller. You're going to start. That's going to be said below the surface,
and
then soon it's going to become something they can openly say. I don't want to hire him. He's a religious fanatic. Which didn't happen before, but it's starting to happen, and so I'm worried. About the short term and medium term future of our country. I'm confident about the long term hope for mankind through Jesus Christ. But I fear that my children may suffer my grandchildren. My children probably won't, but my grandchildren, I don't have any yet, but would suffer persecution for their faith. And circling back, that just adds to the respect we should have for our Iraqi Christian friends. They have gone through what we are fearing. They have gone through it for 2,000 years, well, at least since Islam began. So for 1,500 years, they've gone through the persecution that we are fearing might happen to us. So imagine how uncomfortable we feel right now about what might happen.
I know.
They've had to deal with what has happened and is happening for 1,500 years.
They've been born into it. They're normal. And it's a new experience for us who have lived more of a materialistic lifestyle, a world that we've cared about the glitz and the glamour and the Hollywood and all the rest. And I think reality is starting to come. And my hope is, I know that God purifies His church, and I know that He purges, and my hope is that we it's that be merciful in your judgment. You help us when we can't help ourselves, and guide us when we don't know where we're going. And
well, we know there are about my educated guess would be there were a good 50 million Christians praying for a different result in the elections for 2020 than we had.
Right.
So God, we were making noises.
Yeah. Yeah.
He always answers prayers. This time around, he answered them no. But there
Yeah.
may be
Right.
there may be a reason for that. There may be somebody waiting in the wings to step forward that might not have had the opening to step forward had things gone the way you and I would prefer them to go in November and yesterday in the runoff here in Georgia. So
I know.
God is in control. It's sometimes a hard pill to swallow, and but I look at my Iraqi brothers and Christians, and they inspire my Iraqi brothers and sisters in Christ, and they inspire me.
Yes.
And I look at my autistic son and his innocence and.
That's it.
By the way, a quick story, you'll appreciate it. We were in a friend of yours' church visiting one Sunday.
Right.
We went because our church was shut down for COVID and they chose to be open. So we drove to, you would know the pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And our son has, we drilled home to him Jesus and asked him if he believed in Jesus and that kind of thing.
Right.
So they gave the invitation, and in the invitation, the pastor who said, if you want to give your heart over to Jesus, just raise your hand. If you want to spend your life, in eternity with Jesus, raise your hand. If you want to trust in Jesus, I want you to raise your hand. And you've heard that, And I woke up when we finished the prayer. People were gathering around my son, congratulating him for becoming a Christian. And he had raised his hand.
Right.
And we were talking to him later, and we said, we thought you already believed in Jesus. He goes, I do. And again, I'm paraphrasing the conversation.
Right.
He said, well, if you already believe in Jesus, you didn't need to, raise your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And he innocently, and that's the great thing about autistic kids, they're very innocent. He said, well, Dad, he asked if I wanted to trust in Jesus, and I want to trust in Jesus.
That's
so I
right.
raised my hand.
So, this is literal. That's right.
He wasn't worried about the way we view the course of events that are supposed to happen.
That's right.
Except the Lord, he heard a question.
That's right.
Trust in Jesus, so he raised his hand.
That's the beauty of autistic children. In fact, I had when Brent was just learning about it with his son, there was a friend that told him about a boy that was an athlete that had done real well, and Under Armour, I think it was, wanted him to do an advertisement. So they gave him these underwear and said, now I want you to wear them, and then you say these words, something like, these are the most comfortable shorts I've ever wore. And he would say, but they're not. And they'd say, yeah, but just say it because we got the cameras rolling. And he'd say, but they're not comfortable. I don't like them. And they would say, you got to say it. And he refused to say it because he was just being honest. And so they brought him on to pay him for a commercial, but he never could make it work for him. And so,
they have no filter. We went swimming with a dear friend of mine who's a missionary in Pakistan, which is another trip, another year of service I did for another conversation, perhaps.
Right.
He came to the U.S. We took him swimming. He's a little heavy set, guy. Yeah. So we all take off our shirts to go hop in the pool, and I've got a little more around the middle than I should. And he definitely had more around the middle than he should. And my autistic son looks at him and says, you need to lose some weight. So that they have no social filter.
No.
What he was saying was accurate.
Yeah.
The man needed to lose some weight, but they don't have a social filter.
They don't.
Unfortunately, my friend just laughed because he knew, the autism.
We saw it this year at Christmas. He wanted to go to Santa Claus. He saw Santa Claus, and so all the relatives, we were all up on a bike ride at Callaway Garden. So we said, he's dying to go talk to Santa Claus. So he gets over there and tells Santa Claus, and I'm called Big Daddy, give Big Daddy this, and give Mimi, that's my wife, give her this. He's telling all things. Then he points at an aunt and he says, don't give her nothing. She's on the naughty list. So, she'd gotten on to him earlier, so he put her on the naughty list.
They have their social filter is almost non-existent, but their hearts are pure.
The memory, his mind. He can tell me right now, Big Daddy, do you remember when we went down to Florida and we stayed at the Holiday Inn in room 114? He will remember the rooms of everywhere we've ever stayed. Yeah. And, he just knows that stuff. So
it's amazing what they'll remember.
I tried to tease my granddaughter with my daughter-in-law. I said, you need to watch Rain Man sometime. She said, I'm not watching Rain Man because I live with Rain Man.
Yeah, it's a lot of similarities. My son can cite lines from movies.
Yeah.
But he can't tell you what 8 + 8 is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he can watch a movie, and then when he sees it the second time, he'll say the next line as it's coming up. So the brain works; it just works differently, and the social skills really are hard to develop with them. The sweet softball player said something to the effect of, I knew Jamie was autistic, but he's one of God's children, and I sure do love him. Something like that. It was along those lines. It's very inspiring to hear a 20-something say something like that.
I know. Big difference they make. Max, I've enjoyed talking with you today. Thanks for being my guest. A lot of times when we see each other, it's quick and we're pressed for time.
Rush.
Yeah, you had just come in from Washington. We're about to go back, and I'm in the middle of a service, and so I've enjoyed this time together with you, brother. If you'd like to watch other videos and other podcasts, we have them available for you, and you can find them right here. And then on top of that, I really want you to subscribe. You can hit that button right there. We can stay connected. It'd be a big benefit for both of us. So be sure to hit the button to subscribe.